votes. Like they have 4 votes of advantage. It's not an overwhelming majority when you look at it like voting wise.
Uh-huh.
That is a very fragile coalition. This is why he also has to bend over backwards uh, for all the extremists in his government, because if one party leaves his government, they can no longer rule. They can no longer have a voting majority.
Ah, interesting. So you think he's basically moving like a typical politician, trying to maneuver where he still stays in power, but also uh
Yeah, he's Netanyahu is clinging to power to give himself the opportunity to intervene in his own criminal trial.
mm,
This is also why they tried to do a judicial reform earlier this year. People forget we were marching in the streets by the hundreds of thousands to prevent a judicial reform.
I remember because he was trying to
Yeah,
change the law
you,
so that he can stay in power, right?
it's a bit more nuanced than that, but it was
Mm.
basically trying to take the teeth away from our judicial system. Now, you remember that happening. I got arrested in the protests.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
I was knee deep into that shit.
Uh how long were you
So,
how long did they have you locked up?
just a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Like almost like here
Uh,
when you protest, you get locked up for a day. They just
yeah,
send you out.
it was a slap on the wrist for like civil disorder, but
Right. Okay.
whatever. Funny story. But tear gas is 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
That's so interesting though.
Uh,
So in your experience, what percentage of the average population in Israel does not want Netanyahu in power?
well, in recent polls, he has a little a little more than half the votes that he had in the previous election.
Hmm.
Like he had like 34 or 35 seats in the parliament for his Likud party.
Uh-huh.
He's down to like 19 in recent polls. Like he went from being the largest party, and in recent polling he's like third or fourth largest party.
Uh
He is not doing well. This is everything that happened here also brought to the surface a lot of things that are an abject failure uh, for him. Um, this entire thing has been a shit show. Uh, but you got to go back. All of this could have been averted in the late '90s and in the early 2000s. Two separate prime ministers, Ehud Barak and Ehud Olmert, both of them having the same first name is just a coincidence.
huh.
But both of them offered the Palestinians. I wouldn't say it was an ideal offer as far as a peace treaty goes, because you could argue that,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the best offer that you could possibly get under the circumstance. And at the end of the day, when we're looking about, and I'm being as objective as I can, when you're talking about negotiations,
Uh-huh.
the side that has the capacity to win a conflict has a bit more sway in the negotiations.
I would say way more sway in in the
Yeah,
negotiations.
and
Literally.
so here's the thing. Um, Gaza was offered in its entirety to a Palestinian state
Uh-huh.
in that suggested two-state solutions. 95, and then in a following offer, 98% of the West Bank
Mm-hmm.
was
And
offered
I think it
in
was
that negotiation.
East Jerusalem too, right?
I'm not sure about East Jerusalem, but I do know there were additional territories outside of that to make sure that the West Bank and Gaza are connected.
Okay.
So there was going to be a way to bridge between the two, because those two are completely separate situations geographically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now the issue is that since Hamas took over, and you said something that kind of irked me.
What's that?
Um, you said that you cannot continuously blame Hamas, but yes, you can. You got to remember Hamas up until 2017, which they did for publicity reasons, for political reasons, on their charter had a quote from the Hadith that talks about killing Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And the first item on the agenda for their charter was the destruction of the state of Israel using unrestrained jihad with no negotiation or political settlement.
See,
This is
I think
almost a word for word quote from their charter, by the way.
I'm sure it is. I think I think we had a uh misinterpretation of what I was saying. When I was saying that you can't always blame Hamas, I was saying that because the last two videos I watched on the channel, I don't know if I think you were in here. This one with the hostages, and then the past one I saw with the Israeli ambassador to the UK. I was saying that as we've gone to the point um, where we're at like 70 days since October 7th, or 50 days, one of the two, and upwards of 20,000 civilians have been killed. I think it's I'm not going to say foolish, but I think it's naive to say that this is just uh in response, or this is only the fault of Hamas, because
I'll give you a bit of news from fresh from the ground here in Israel that might change your opinion on that.
okay.
During the last 24 hours, Israel approached through intermediaries Hamas with the suggestion, okay, let's discuss another prisoner exchange and
Mm-hmm.
a few days hiatus in the fighting. And the original offer was a week, and then the second offer was 10 weeks. And Hamas, who started this whole thing on
Right.
October 7th,
Right.
has the audacity to say there will be no negotiation until the complete ceasefire.
Interesting.
Now,
Interesting.
so this entire ridiculous power play is done by incredibly corrupt individuals. The Palestinians, the Palestinian people, who my heart genuinely cries for. I'm not saying this sarcastically. This is not crocodile tears.
Uh
They're stuck between a rock and a hard place because the people who are supposed to represent them and quote unquote fight for their freedom bleed them of their donations money
yeah. Bleed them of or
and
foreign national aid, bleed them of any chance of statehood by constantly attacking Israel.
and it's not
literally you're preaching to the
also again.
choir.
Yeah, but you also are you aware of the financials of this? Like, I'm not sure how in depth you've read
Well,
into the
I
situation.
did some research. I think 2020. I can't give you exact figures, but I know for certain. I think it was 2020. They got upwards of like six
So
hundred
I'll
million.
I'll give you I'll give you something that's a bit of food for thought. How does someone like Ismail Hania,
Mm-hmm.
who's supposed to be this old for the people resistance leader, right?
Uh huh.
How does he end up being worth approximately $3 billion with a B?
$3 billion.
Yeah,
Whew. That's
the,
all.
the
That's
top the, the top three individuals in Hamas,
uh.
in between the three of them, are worth almost $10 billion. While the average person in Gaza has nothing to eat. Now, how many schools can you build with $10 billion?
A lot.
How many
This is
power
you.
plants can you build?
But this is what I've been saying, bro. You preaching. That's why I said you're preaching to
Yeah.
the choir. I was saying, like I've said before on this stream, with 50 people here right now, I said that um all this aid that comes in, I think it was $600 million from the U.S. in 1 year, 2020, and people still complain and say that, oh, Israel controls the electricity, they control the water, but if you were actually trying to become independent from Israel, build your own power plants, build your own water treatment plants, build this infrastructure that will literally separate you from Israel. You don't like right now. If I mean, not to say Hamas should have done this, but honestly, they should have actually. If they were being forthright with the money, there would be no power issues in Gaza. Well, unless during the bombing, Israel took out their power
Also,
plants. But
also just another bit of a bit of example of what goes on inside Gaza that a lot of people like. There's a lot of misrepresentation of reality, but by people who are
Mm.
trying to portray my country. And while we do fuck up a lot, and
Every
by no
country
means,
fucks
and
up.
by no stretch of the imagination am I trying to state uh, that that Israel is handling this situation perfectly, because clearly we're not.
Right.
There was this huge uproar about Israel shutting off the water pipe providing water to Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, do you know how much of the water supply into Gaza is provided by Israel?
I think it's like 30% or something like that.
Less than 10% of the
Less.
water that
Okay.
goes into
Yeah.
Gaza is
I think
provided
no.
there.
Actually, when the figure I heard was 13%. I put 3 and I went to
So
30, but I think
uh,
it's like one pipeline, right?
let's meet in the middle and say 10%.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
the rest
So.
of the water supply is privatized
Mm-hmm.
and is basically a prerogative for those who can afford it.
Uh huh.
So they're fucking themselves.
Yeah. I heard there was a I forgot what you call it, but like a water, basically like a water cleaning plant that Israel left when they pulled out in 2005, and
Yeah, and they took the pipe work from that plant and build
and
rockets.
built rockets to shoot into Israel.
I'm not joking. That's
Also,
documented.
yeah, also the EU set up a bunch of like pipelines and things to like more infrastructure using like
I'll give you more than that. There used to be Jewish settlements inside Gaza called Gush Katif.
mm-hmm.
Okay, when we did what we called the Itnatkut in 2005, and we pulled all the Jews out of Gaza. There are no Jews in Gaza since 2005.
Right.
Behind them, they left enormous agricultural infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
because that's how they made their money. The people who lived in Gush Katif, they were farmers,
Right.
right? All of that infrastructure, all of those water pipes, all of those farms were either destroyed or converted into construction of rockets and terrorism infrastructure. All of it, and it's documented. We left something behind for them to build on and be successful. This is a ridiculous situation. Now, all of these large, bold claims of like genocide and ethnic cleansing, if we wanted to have like a complete ethno state with no representation inside Israel, we would not have Israeli Arabs serve inside the military. We would not have Israeli Arabs serve in our high courts. We will not have Israeli Arabs in our in our politics. We would have segregated them if we were genuinely looking to create an quote unquote apartheid state.
Now, okay,
Anyone who is
debunk something for me and for anyone listening
yeah,
here. One of the main talking points that pro-Palestinian people will say is that you can't get if you're not Israeli, if you're not Jewish, or even if you're Palestinian, you can't get citizenship in Israel. Is that true?
can you please repeat the question, because I'm not sure I understood you.
If you are Palestinian or not Jewish or not Israeli, are you unable to get citizenship in Israel?
When I state a term like Arab Israeli, what does that imply?
Well,
These are Muslim or Christian Arabs that have
mm-hmm.
Israeli citizenship. They are represented in the Knesset. They can, if they choose to, they can join the military, but they are not.
No, but
conscripted like I was conscripted.
No, I know. I'm just saying that this is what I hear
There
from
is
like.
there is there is no, if you are
Mm-hmm.
a part of Israel proper and you are loyal and lawful within the country, like just comply within the rules, no problem. There is a huge Arab citizenship inside Israel with
Mm-hmm.
full rights. And not only do they have full rights, they have some precedence when it comes to higher education, because it is well known that in some of the more remote Arab villages, they don't have access to the best education. So when they apply for colleges, they get preferential treatment.
Mm-hmm.
so they will have access to higher education and they can be productive and positive citizens within Israeli society. They have full representation in our parliament. There are Arab Israeli police officers, Arab Israeli doctors, Arab Israeli commanders in the army.
I mean, I said it myself that it was it's a dumb claim, but people still claim it that you can't
So,
get
so yeah, of course, if you are in Gaza, you cannot get Israeli citizenship. But also, when they were offered in 1967, they were offered Israeli citizenship. They refused.
Yeah, they refused. I remember 6-Day War.
Yeah, we invited them in to live with us and break bread. And the original move was like attempting to be wholesome, because the Gaza Strip was originally controlled by the Jordanians.
No, Egypt.
Oh, Egypt. I'm sorry. Jordan is the West Bank. I apologize. I forget the two. We've been in so many wars. It's
right.
A bit problematic to remember.
That's wild, though.
But here's before I have to leave, I'll leave you with some food for thought. And this is something you can look at historically. Whenever we have signed a peace agreement with any country, with Egypt, with Jordan, with anyone, we have always respected that peace agreement, and we have always come to a working relationship with that country.
Mm.
And also, the Jordanians and the Egyptians are in no rush to help or accept Palestinian refugees, because the Palestinians have issues with both of them before they have issues with us.
Yeah, I know. They tried to assassinate the Jordanian king, and I think president.
They did. Yeah, they not only did they try to assassinate the Jordanian king, they also incited massive riots in Egypt.
Right. I think they tried to coup the government or coup the president. One more thing I want to ask you. I know you said you have to leave. One more thing I want to ask you. What is the justification? I know we were like, we never really came to a deal in Oslo. But what is the justification for settlements in the West Bank?
There is no justification for settlements in the West Bank, and I say it as a Jew.
Okay.
The justifications for settlements in the West Bank are part of like a messianic vision called Greater Israel. It dates back to the Bible. And while I sympathize with it and I understand it, if you're looking at it from a modern perspective, I will say the settlements in the West Bank are a landmine in the way to peace and should be relocated. The same way that I don't want someone's religious opinions to dictate if my girlfriend can have an abortion or not, I don't want someone's religious aspirations to be the reason why I'm constantly at war.
That was a very good take. I'm actually surprised, because usually when I talk to people that are pro-Israel and I bring it up, they're like, well, it's a buffer zone for terrorist activities into Greater Israel.
Listen, from that perspective, they're not necessarily wrong. But from a diplomatic perspective, you're going to have to give it up anyway in order to strike any peace deal.
Right.
Because there is no peace deal that does not include the West Bank. And everyone knows it, including Netanyahu, who offered the West Bank.
Right. But then that's a whole nother situation, because I don't think Netanyahu essentially wants peace, to be honest.
Netanyahu has no justification to exist in a peaceful climate.
Yeah.
He is a warmonger, and he's as corrupt a politician as anyone can describe. I challenge you to find a more corrupt politician, even inside your own government. The things that are alleged about Netanyahu would make George Santos blush.
I really want to do a deep dive into Netanyahu, but I don't think there's no way he's more corrupt than Trump. But that's a conversation for another story.
I promise. I assure you that Donald Trump did not cooperate with a military deal that would endanger the security of the American public.
Unlike Netanyahu, he did orchestrate an insurrection.
Did he allow a country Did he cooperate and allow a country of suspicious intent to acquire highly advanced submarines?
Nothing. No, well, yeah, I guess that's you got me there. But if you want to argue I mean, I think
Yeah.
it depends on
He
which country.
also he
Which country?
also
Go ahead.
let's do this.
Mm.
I have another work. I have a work meeting that I have to log into. If you're still here in an hour, let's do a Netanyahu deep dive.
Okay, that's fine by me.
All right.
But if
Talk
I
to you
don't,
later, dude.
yeah, it was good talking to you, and
If
I'll see you later.
if you're not here, just reach out to me on Discord. We'll book it. I'll happily do a Netanyahu deep dive.
Got you. All right, brother. Enjoy the rest
All
of your
right.
day.
Bye for now.
Later.
You too. Bye bye.
Okay. All right. Back to the video, everybody. Who says I don't talk to my fans?
To make violent revolution inevitable. You had to, with the Jewish Ergon, there's always been terrorist expression. The problem is the IDF, which comes out of Jabotinsky, which was tied to the Jewish and terrorist history, and this is a part of Jewish history. It's not all. There's been the Einsteins and the Albert Magnus and others who call for very different things. But when I hear my brother Eugene say they've only killed Hamas, they killed 2 Christian women in front of a church, a mother and a grandmother. You mean almost 8,000 children are being shielded by Hamas? You really believe the world is going to think that's serious? These justifications are as weak as pre-sweetened Kool-Aid when we see the massive suffering of precious Palestinians who are innocent.
He brought it black.
That somehow you can continue to put forward these lies, though, brother Eugene. The world is no longer convinced,
Okay,
and you know this is true within the Jewish community.
I've got to leave the debate. I'm sorry, we've run out of time. I've got to leave the debate there. It's an interesting debate. Passions run high on both sides. Thank you both very much for joining me. Cornell, I want to wish you ongoing success with your campaign in the presidential race. The Economist.
Both of you brothers, I pray for your families and stay strong, and let's try to hold up a bloodstained banner of some serious morality and spirituality in a moment of massive hatred and tribalism.
Yeah, I would certainly.
In the name of Amos, in the name of Isaiah, and in the name of Jesus.
I would certainly agree.
In the name of me.
I was going to read you a quote from The Economist today, which said, Cornel West has the charisma and energy of James Brown if the godfather of soul had also gone to graduate school. And if that isn't something you want to put on your...
You know what sucks? I didn't even know he was running for president, but he seems like a cool dude. He looked like not George Washington Carver, Frederick Johnson. Seemed like a cool dude though.